Alright, so that little dip into mild luxury back in Kimsar was, let's say, an interesting detour. But you know us, it didn't take long before we were itching to swing back to our true north, the kind of travel that feels like coming home. Pure, unadulterated offbeat adventure. And for this glorious return to our comfort zone, Jaisalmer was beckoning, practically guaranteeing a fresh batch of Rajasthani serendipitous shenanigans. So, naturally, we aim for a 10 stay buried deep in the desert, miles from anywhere you'd call convenient, throwing our itinerary to the winds as usual. Upon arrival, the folks at the stay, bless their hearts, presented us with a whole pamphlet full of activity options. Now, we usually like to keep our holiday schedules lighter than a papadum in a stiff breeze, picking maybe one thing to do. But this time, the experiences they described sounded so ridiculously tempting. We looked at each other and went, heck, let's do all of them. Famous last words, maybe? So, first night on the agenda, a night jeep safari into the pitch black open desert, culminating in just hanging out on a dune. We were all in, faster than you can say, desert adventure. We probably chorused. The evening kicked off with a cultural show, which, let's be honest, is pretty much the default welcome platter in many parts of Rajasthan. Lovely, colorful, gets you in the mood. Then, after dinner, our chariot awaited, a jeep that apparently moonlighted as a mobile disco, judging by its lights later on, and the fun began. A little way into the drive, cruising through the darkness, we spotted some graceful deer bounding away. And then, a happy little surprise, a desert fox. Oh, this guy was a superstar, a very quick superstar. He was so zippy, so elusive, we ended up on this extended, rather comical chase trying to get him on camera. Let's just say the resulting footage is probably more shaky art film than National Geographic. Eventually, we reached the dune. Our jeep, with its array of bright and rather colorful lights, was basically the only beacon in what felt like the darkest night imaginable. It was the day after a new moon, so the setting was perfectly staged for that cozy, are we the only people left on earth kind of feeling. No other light source for miles. Beautiful, a bit eerie, and as we quickly discovered, surprisingly cold. The desert night chill started to creep in, and it was a proper whoops, didn't pack for this moment. Our Jeep driver, a seasoned pro, quickly whipped up a bonfire to keep us from turning into human icicles. We hadn't anticipated just how nippy it would get, and with a bit of wind picking up, we were huddled around that fire like school kids around a stolen tiffin box. Very close, very focused for a good while. You could tell this wasn't a regular tourist hotspot. There were no footprints, no tracks, just pristine, untouched sand. Naturally, we thought, let's run up and down it. Oh boy, easier said than done when the sand is softer than a politician's promise. We could barely make it halfway up the dune before our lungs staged a protest. And in one particularly athletic, not attempt, one of us even managed to get a slipper completely swallowed by the sand. A sacrifice to the dune gods, perhaps. Then, feeling artistic under the stars, we tried our hand at some astrophotography. Now, being what you might call enthusiastic novices with a camera, especially in the dark, we think the results were interesting. We'll let you be the judge when you see the snaps. Are they breathtaking captures of the cosmos? Or more, guess the blurry smudge? After our nocturnal adventures, it was back to our tents, about the stay itself. It was definitely one of the very few tent options tucked away this deep in the Jaisalmer interiors. Not exactly 5-star comfort, more like authentic desert experience with a bed, but perfectly fine. It would certainly make do for our 2-night stint. Being so remote meant there wasn't much occupancy, which added to the quiet. The food, again, make do is the operative phrase here, hearty enough to keep you going. Next day, with a whole day to ourselves, we decided to visit Kulara Village, famously or perhaps infamously known as the Ghost Village. The story goes that this entire village was abandoned overnight, like poof, gone. A couple of centuries back, there are all sorts of wild theories floating about why, from curses to taxes, the usual culprits, but that's a spooky rabbit hole for another time. The vibe there is definitely something else, makes your imagination run wild. The second evening, we opted for a camel ride to another nearby dune for the sunset ritual. Because, hey, you're in the desert, you've pretty much got to ride a camel, right? It's in the tourist rulebook somewhere. Probably page 1. This dune was a bit more of a known spot, with a few other camps sending their guests over, but it was big enough for everyone to find their patch. The camel ride itself, let's just say it was an experience to be ticked off the list. Comfortable wouldn't be the first word that springs to mind, more like internal organ rearrangement service, but we persevered. This particular dune was a classic example of how wind shapes the desert. A beautiful, sweeping curve of sand, and using our now finely honed skills of carving out personal space in mildly crowded tourist hotspots, we found a great spot to watch the sunset. A classic, we were here and it was pretty moment. Another little natural wonder that caught our eye on this dune was this tiny lizard. It was zipping about, digging furiously in the sand and then running across the surface so lightly it barely left a mark. What was really striking was its vibrant blue patch on its neck. Super cool. We'll leave it to the biologists and nature experts among you to tell us what species it was. Then, back at our tent stay, the hosts, who were really picking up on our vibe, offered another night jeep drive, this time to a different dune. And here's where it gets really special. They'd somehow heard us musing about wanting to try some good, authentic mutton, because Rajasthan is renowned for its tender goat meat dishes. So, these incredibly kind hosts had arranged for our jeep driver's family to cook a traditional mutton dish for us, right there on a wood fire. We were then taken to this private dinner setup, literally in the middle of nowhere, next to a crackling bonfire on a dune. Yup, another one of those romantic packages expertly repurposed for offbeat family time. The silence out there was incredible. All you could hear were the flames dancing in the wind. Otherwise, just us, enjoying an unbelievably cozy dinner under a blanket of desert stars. The dish itself was beautifully cooked, so tender and flavorful. Massive kudos to the hosts for giving us such a personalized and truly memorable experience. So, the next day, just before checking out, we thought, why not throw in one last thing? An early morning safari to watch birds in a nearby, lesser known sanctuary. And let me tell you, a big surprise awaited us there. But you will have to watch out for our next episode to find out what that was.